Well, we've been going through each one of our values. We're at the last one. Here it is. Here's our last value. Are you ready? We give generously. We give generously. I mean, there's a whole lot of talk. I think people are nervous when they think about church and money. What's going to happen? Well, I'm just telling you this. I think the Lord's called us to give and to give generously of all that we have. We're stewards. Everything I have has been entrusted to me by God, and I think about that in every area of my life. I have been entrusted to love and care for a beautiful woman named Bethany as my wife. And I have been called to steward my family and my children, to grow them up in the Lord. I'm responsible for that. I am called to steward this church. That's a big responsibility. And I'm called to steward all the resources that God has entrusted to me. And so I hope I'm giving with my time to Bethany. I'm generous with her. I hope I'm generous with my kids. I hope I'm generous with the church. I hope I'm generous with everything that the Lord has given to me. And the Bible says a lot about the fact that, of course, we save, but we are not stingy. And that I give generously to the Lord and to his work, that we're doing a lot of kingdom work, and I want to give generously to that. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 11 says, you will be enriched in every way, to be generous in every way, which through us will produce thanksgiving to God. One of my favorite stories about giving comes from Luke 21. It's right in the first couple of verses. Jesus looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the offering box. And he saw a poor widow put in 2 small copper coins. And he said, truly, I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all of them. For they all contributed out of their abundance, but she contributed out of her poverty and put in all she had to live on. Now, I love that's generous. It doesn't mean you have to be rich to give generously. It doesn't mean you have to be uber wealthy. We live in an area where we find a lot of people who are really wealthy, and we think, well, if I was like them, I would give. But God's called each one of us to be generous. I give generously of my time. I want to give generously of my talent. I want to give generously of my treasure. So I hope that our church isn't ever called a consumer church where people feel comfortable to just come, get, and go. I don't want that for our church. I want us to be people who give. That I come and because of all that I have received, I want to give. I want to serve. I want to go help. I want to roll up my sleeves. Even when it's a bit uncomfortable, I want to give. I want to serve because this is what God's called me to do. And we don't want to do it reluctantly. As the Bible says, we don't want to do it under compulsion. But I want to do it generously. Look at all the Lord's given to us. I don't give because I think I could repay him for what he gave to me. I would never do that. I could never do it. But I give because he's a giver. God's been so generous to us. He hasn't withheld anything from us. And I don't want to withhold from him either. So here's a great value, church. We give generously.